Hi, I'm Marc Turnage, Director of the Center for Holy Land Studies. And over the next 3 weeks, what we would like to do is look at archaeological artifacts as windows into the world and thought of the Bible. It's interesting how little artifacts can provide actually a lot of data in terms of how we understand the world and the thought and give us a big picture of Scripture. So what we're going to do this week is look at 3 separate coins related to the first Jewish revolt. This is a revolt that began in the land of Judea from 66 AD and ended in the year 70 with the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. During the first Jewish revolt, Jewish rebels sought to free themselves from Rome. In fact, we know a lot about this revolt because of the first century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus. Josephus tells us that the spirit and the fires of liberty burned through the Jewish people, fueled also by messianic expectations. One of the things that ancient civilizations would often do as a way of revolting would be to strike their own coins and mint their own coins. The coins of the revolt actually give us a very interesting window into the world of the first century. In my hand here, I hold a coin from the second year of the revolt. It says year 2 on one side, and on the back side it says, "For the freedom of Zion." Now, early on in the revolt, in fact, the first 3 years of the revolt, the Jewish coins all bear the same kind of inscription, "For the freedom of Jerusalem," "For the freedom of Zion," this kind of language. The thing is, though, that language seems to suggest that they thought that they could actually run Rome out of town based upon force of arms alone. But something happens in year 4. And in year 4, the Galilee has fallen. Really all that remained to the rebel forces was Jerusalem, the temple, and a couple places like Masada and Herodium in the south of the country. And in year 4, and this is the coin that we find here, the inscription changes. And no longer do we speak about the freedom of Jerusalem, but now we begin to speak about "for the redemption of Zion." The year 4 was really the last year of the revolt. Year 5, we have a few coins minted, but that's 70 AD when the temple's destroyed. The noted Jewish coin expert, Yaakov Mishorer, has suggested that what moved them from "for the freedom of Jerusalem" or "the freedom of Zion" to the redemption or "for the redemption of Zion" was a theological shift. All of a sudden, the rebels realized force of arms alone was not going to drive Rome from the land. But what was going to happen in order for them to be successful was divine intervention. And so the shift in the legend on the coin, "for the redemption of Zion," comes from this yearning that God is going to have to step in and save the day. Well, of course, that doesn't happen. And in 70, Jerusalem is destroyed, and in August of 70, the temple is going to be burned. I hold in my hand here another coin. This one bears the emperor of Titus, Titus being the sacker of Jerusalem and the destroyer of the temple, the Roman general responsible for this. Of course, his father, Vespasian, began fighting against the Jewish rebels, but during the revolt, he's actually made emperor of Rome. Titus would actually follow him as emperor. And on this coin that bears Titus' image, it speaks about the capture of Judea. And on the back, you actually see a Roman trophy with the arms of the conquered Jews and a subjugated Jew seated at the bottom of this trophy. Both of these coins, the Jewish coins and the Roman coins, give us a marvelous window into the world of the New Testament. We hear this language of redemption spoken about in Luke's gospel. And redemption doesn't just mean a divine, personal salvation. It actually has the sense of national redemption that also has a spiritual component to it. At the same time, Jesus, when he looks over the city, weeps over it because he sees the coming day when this city is going to be destroyed. And he weeps, "Would that you had known the things that make for peace." Ultimately, the fratricide of Jew killing Jew and the corruption of the chief priests in Jerusalem is going to ultimately lead to the destruction of the temple, at least according to both Josephus and the Jewish rabbis. And so in these coins we find actually this window into the world and thought of Jesus. We see a country that is yearning for freedom, but at the same time has to conclude that because Rome's so powerful and so strong, that only God's divine redemption is going to, in fact, bring them success. And then ultimately we find evidence of the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, as predicted by Jesus himself. Would that you had known the things that make for peace. Coins are fascinating. And what they do is they show us a great window into the world of the Bible, into the world of the New Testament. Thank you, and I invite you to join us next time as we look at more artifacts from the land of Israel.